What's up, y'all? It's Annabelle with That Good Shit, and I am here with...
Elijah Fox.
How you doing today, Elijah?
I'm doing great. Just staying warm. Happy to be in New York.
Yeah, we're staying warm out here. It's a little cold. You might see some snow on the ground, but we're bundled up and ready for a fantastic interview. Elijah, I am so excited to be sitting here with you today. I just saw your sold out show last night at Music Hall of Williamsburg. It was breathtaking. Now, for those of you who may not know who Elijah is, I just want to familiarize y'all a little bit and let you know how much of a legend this man is. Elijah has recorded and produced for artists like SZA, Masego, YG, Schoolboy Q, Denzel Curry, Musiq Soulchild, Childish Gambino, Uchis, J. Cole, and more. You play with Yussef Days, which is really fire, and then just all of your solo music is absolutely breathtaking. I really feel like you are one of the greatest living piano players, and your career so far has been incredible, and I know there's only amazing things in the future. So Elijah's the GOAT, basically. Elijah, before we get into what you've got going on right now, I'd love to go back a little bit to how you started. What's your earliest memory of music?
My earliest memories of music were my grandma was a classical pianist, and so when I was like a kid, me and my brother grew up hearing her play, and she would be playing like a lot of some of my favorite composers now, playing like Ravel and Debussy, and so she never forced us to play piano, but like some of my earliest memories are like playing with like Playmobiles and Legos like on the piano and kind of just like banging around. Yeah, so she was kind of the main influence when we would hear piano. And then my brothers, who goes by Solomon now, we grew up and both kind of started playing piano at the same time. And it was sort of like at the same period where like you're playing with toys as a kid, and then there's like this certain point when it's like not cool to play with toys anymore.
Right.
And at like right then we just kind of transitioned to like playing with like GarageBand and like piano. So we would both have the same piano teacher show up to the lessons and like play duets together, play all these weird sounds on GarageBand. It was kind of just like another way of like playing.
Right.
And so I still want to have that sort of like childlike sense of wonder when I would play now.
100%.
It is just like, it's fun. So,
yeah, no, like that childlike sense of creativity and having an open mind, I think is why both you and Solomon make like such cool open-minded music. Do you remember what like the first few songs y'all actually like made originally? Like, do you remember what those sounded like?
Yeah, I remember he made a version of Girl from Ipanema that was on like this low oboe sound, and we like produced it out with all these GarageBand loops. But yeah, it was, and I remember I also had a song that was like about one of the players on my Little League baseball team hitting a home run, and that was like, I showed it to the team on like a burned CD, and they were like, yeah!
That's so cool.
But those are some of my earliest memories using like GarageBand on those like iMacs that had like the little like back to it.
Yeah, the like chunky iMacs. And did you always know that you wanted to grow up to be a musician?
I think since like middle school, it had kind of been my passion. I started going to this jam session in Durham, North Carolina, and there was this older guy there named Yussef Salim who had like played with Charlie Parker in the like 50s and stuff. And so he was in Durham, and he kind of became me and my brother's first mentors because he was at the end of his life. So like everything that he would play was really simple, but really like meaningful and powerful.
Yeah.
And so I sort of learned how to play chords from like watching him, and then I just got really excited because if I learned a new song, I could come back on Friday and play the song with the band.
Yeah.
So I remember being like in like elementary school, every time I would always draw the keyboard out on like a blank piece of paper, and then with one hand I would just be like playing songs like during class.
That's
just like
hilarious.
bored, super bored, like can't wait to get home.
Music in your mind.
Yeah.
It's crazy to look back on those things and like see where you are now and see how like little things like that really showed how into it you were and how you really turned it into like your life's work. It's so cool. You and Solomon are like in the house playing piano. You're in school playing your paper piano. At what point did your music start to become more public facing, and when did you start to get attention for your music?
I went to college in Oberlin, and I put out an album on SoundCloud that would have been 2014 called Old Spice EP. Nice. And all of the songs were named after different deodorants. I also had an entire cabinet of deodorant, and the album photo was just me on my bed with a ton of deodorant like around my head.
That's fire.
But that album, I guess, got some traction on SoundCloud, and some people and blogs like reposted it. And so that was the first time that I guess started networking with other musicians around the world on SoundCloud. yeah, I met like Tom Misch, who reposted the album through that, and some other people back in those SoundCloud days.
The SoundCloud days, the golden era.
Yeah.
I miss the SoundCloud days. That's when I was in like mid high school, and I also remember like hearing Tom Misch for the first time, kind of through SoundCloud, and like really getting into all that. It was a great time for music. Tell me a little bit about Durham, where you grew up.
Durham, there's a great music scene. Me and my brother grew up. My parents are both professors at Duke, and so yeah, this guy Yussef Salim was there. There's a lot of like jazz roots in North Carolina, especially Thelonious Monk, John Coltrane, Nina Simone. They're all born in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Obviously, their careers was in New York, but yeah, Durham was great. Like Ninth Wonder's there, so we were listening to Little Brother. Rhapsody's there, J. Cole's nearby. So there was a really good like hip hop, R&B, jazz scene. I would always listen to like R&B radio and stuff. K97.5 was the station that I listened to. Usher Confessions was the first CD I bought with my allowance money.
Very tasteful.
Yeah, it was a good place to grow up. Like, just good people, good food, good music, but not an overwhelming city, I guess. But also when I was in like high school, like the whole downtown was abandoned, and it's all these old tobacco warehouses. So like Liggett and Myers, all these tobacco companies used to be in Durham.
Yeah.
So I got like suspended from my high school for like sneaking into this like tobacco building near the school, and this one guy posted photos on Facebook, and then another student pretended to be an anonymous parent and sent them to the teacher.
Oh my God.
And then, but he cropped me out because he had a vendetta against my friend. And then, but they found it. We all got like suspended for like 5 days. But
What were you doing in the abandoned tobacco buildings?
we were just messing around, like spraying fire extinguishers and stuff. This is like incriminating myself, but no, yeah,
Like kid shit,
we were just
you
doing like
know?
high school stuff,
Yeah.
messing around.
Yeah, and you started out in Durham, North Carolina, and now you've taken your career worldwide. You have traveled all over the world performing in front of crowds internationally, and I think that's so amazing. What's been your favorite part of being able to travel that much?
Experiencing some of these places for the first time, places that I've known about and maybe loved their music like my whole life. It's a special experience to go somewhere and then also have the privilege to like play music there when it's your first time there, because you naturally meet so many other musicians and people that if I was just in these places I wouldn't necessarily meet. But like going to Brazil for the first time last year, I had a bunch of firsts last year. Like I went to South America, Australia, South Africa for the first time, and it's just always, it's my favorite feeling in the world is like seeing a place that you've known about your whole life and then actually being there and like, just going out and seeing music and meeting people that also play music there. Yeah, it's beautiful to get to play music. And also a lot of these shows I did the last year was with Yussef Days, and so we're playing like instrumental music, and it almost just like it can connect with people anywhere because it's just a feeling instead of like, there is no lyrics, so it's not like there's no barrier to connection.
Yeah, it can be like universally understood no matter where you are, which is one of the most beautiful things about music, and so it's really special to get to experience that. I also know that you're a big fan of architecture.
Yeah.
I would love to know like some of your favorite architectural sites you've seen around the world.
Yeah, I'm an architecture nerd, I guess. I got to play at Sydney Opera House this past year, which was crazy because shout out to the Finding Nemo movie was like my first reference of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was crazy. We played in Tunisia, and I saw these like Roman ruins of this place, Carthage, which was crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of other wild spots. Went to some Buddhist temples in Japan, different temples in India. I have kind of a weird fascination with like architecture and like dreaming as it relates to music too, or like it's kind of hard to explain exactly, but I guess I'm just a dreamer, and that like I love just like walking around and looking at buildings.
Yeah.
Oh, Buenos Aires was one of the craziest like architecture I've ever seen. It's kind of like almost like Paris, but like trippier, and these like insane like 1800s buildings and like beautiful city. So yeah, Buenos Aires was definitely a highlight.
That's special. And would you say that, like going around looking at architecture inspires how you make music essentially?
Yeah, I think basically like every time I go anywhere, I'm kind of dreaming about what it would be like if I lived there. And then I have a lot of songs that are named after places. The place is kind of a whole world, and just sort of dreaming about, I guess, just daydreaming about places and buildings and stuff.
Yeah. I love seeing, like, as you play, like, I love seeing the way your mind works. And I think one of the best ways to see that is when you're improvising on stage. Like, last night at Elijah's show, they were just freestyling a bunch of stuff, and it sounded so incredible. You guys even had some, like, MCs hop on stage and rap, which was really fire. Tell me about what it's like in your mind when you're on stage improvising with your band.
I love improvising because you kind of just want to almost get into a trance where you want to embrace like the mystery, I guess. And I think one of the reasons that I love music so much is that like I have no idea what music I'm going to make this year. To me, that's like so exciting.
Yeah.
If I knew what I was going to make, I would have already made it. And so it's like, it's beautiful that we don't know who we're going to collaborate with. Like the sense of mystery is the most appealing part to me versus like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have this 5-year plan, and then if I don't hit these goals, like I don't know, the exciting part is like not knowing what's gonna happen. And then when the music gets made, it's like people, I think, can sort of hear when you're like searching for something and then you finally find it. And so that was cool when the MCs and singer came up, because it was just like, it also reminded me of when I was in New York. I would always go to these jam sessions at this place, Treble FM, back in the day. And yeah, I knew it was New York, so I knew whoever came up was going to be fire. But
They were all
great.
super fire.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was a great, fun way to end the show too. But yeah, I like the possibilities of improvising and just try to lean into the mystery as much as I can.
When you're going in to make a body of work, for example, how many of the ideas in the music are things you've thought about beforehand, and how many ideas come to you in the moment?
I think it's always a mix, but a lot of times I'll have sort of one maybe idea, and then I'll just kind of improvise off of it. Or like even most of my songs I can't play because I improvised them, and I don't even want to play them because they're already out and they were improvised. So I'd rather just make new music. Yeah, it's kind of a mix, but like I really respect artists like Miles Davis, who like, he didn't own any of his albums. He literally never listened to his music after he made it, and he kept like people like in the 70s, he was still at like the Isle of Wight festival with like Jimi Hendrix, just like playing like new music. And it was like he's just like improvising with great musicians. Like he was on just like this eternal quest, and he never listened to Kinda Blue after he made it, even though I listen to that like every day.
Wow.
But
always looking forward.
yeah, it's cool to just improvise stuff and like kind of let it be. I guess there's this one, like, it's from like the Tao Te Ching, was this quote that I like: when her work is done, she forgets it. That's why it lasts forever.
Yeah, I think that's a really beautiful perspective. Tell me a little bit about mentors you've had throughout your career.
The first mentors was obviously my grandma, Ruth Peck. She studied in Paris in the 50s and was kind of like training to be a classical pianist. At the time, there wasn't a lot of female concert pianists, so she kind of took a step back and started a family, and then was a piano teacher in upstate New York, in Rochester, for like 50 years. She has such a joy for music, and like that's where I think, like in my family at least, that's where my love of music would stem from, is her and the music that I grew up listening to her play. But I also had a teacher when I was at college, this guy Sullivan Fortner, who is one of my favorite pianists. There was a normal teacher at the school, Dan Wall, who was also amazing. And then for 6 months he was on sabbatical, and this guy Sullivan came, and he was teaching. But I realized like he's a better student than any of the students in the program, even though he was the teacher. Just in that he has this kind of like lifelong quest for music, and it's like he'll always be so curious even with the way he plays, that like it was kind of just like sort of lit a flame for me, I think.
How do you feel like you're remaining, or do you feel like you're remaining a student as you keep growing? Because you're in a place in your career now where you're really like, I feel like you're a leader for a lot of people. I don't know if you are a mentor to anyone, but you're someone who's, really risen up in the ranks. But how do you remain like a student now?
Yeah, just trying to stay curious and like open, like I'm always trying to learn, new types of music or kind of find ways to switch things up too. And I think or just thinking about like the relationship to your instrument or playing, it's like doing different activities before you write music and then seeing like what works. Like, I think that it's weird that a lot of people will like, when they get stuck, they kind of just like push through something. It's like, there's so many things you can do before, like you could, go surfing or go on a hike or go walking around, and then you might find that one of those things like is the best thing for you to do before writing music. And so a lot of times I'll just like switch up and do something kind of random, and then see what like sparks inspiration.
Yeah. Have anything recently that you did that had a really cool outcome?
A lot of times I'll go on crazy long walks. Like January 2nd, I walked from the Brooklyn Bridge to the Bronx. Like I walked just for 11 hours and just listened to like a bunch of albums. I mean, I love walking in New York too, because I don't know, there's something about it that's very meditative, and like also not walking around not listening to music. You just kind of hear sounds that could inspire, like even like that is like might make me think of like or when you're listening to music, I like listening to music that has enough space that it's almost like it's accompanying the thoughts in your mind and the thoughts of the city. So like it's like music that leaves enough space that then it can make that car motor the singer, even though that sounds like kind of crazy.
No,
but
I
like
feel it,
yeah. And I think about that too with making music, like to make something that has enough space for people to hear their own melodies. So it's not necessarily a clear like, oh, this is the chords and this is the melody, but it's something that would inspire people to hear something that's not there, but it's like implied, kind of almost like making so many like analogies, but making like if you're gonna make a bowl, it's like it's gonna hold water for something.
Right.
So I want to make music that could like hold people's experiences or their own melodies, but not necessarily just be like a board that's like, oh, you can only use this for this. Like it could carry whatever, emotions or thoughts people want to put onto it.
100%. I really love the bowl analogy. That makes a lot of sense. I love seeing you collaborate with rising artists. Like I know you have a song with Amaria that you performed last night that was really great. Tell me a little bit about some rising artists whose music you're really enjoying right now.
I really like Layla from New York. Would love to work with her. Chase Shakur is really fire. I just did 2 songs on his next project that's coming out, I think. I mean, I love McGee's album. I don't know if... I guess he's a rising artist, but...
He's like a rocket ship right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But yeah, his show was in LA was one of the best I've seen. My brother, obviously.
Yes.
Shout out to
Solomon Fox.
Orion's Son's really dope. My roommate Luke Titus is about to put out an album that's really fire. I know he was just here with doing an interview. Yeah.
He was, yeah. What else have you been listening to in general? Like, what's at the top of your playlist right now?
I listen to a lot of DeBarge, like 80s vibes. Daryl John's album is really fire. I was listening to The Cup by Dave Blunt. I can't put down the cup. My friend Diamond Cafe has some really good music. Devin Morrison, Sailor, Pookie's Requiem is fire. Arouge Avtab is one of my favorite singers I found recently. Baby Rose, one of my favorite singers now. The song with Leon Thomas is really, really great.
Awesome. Sometimes in life, you hear a song and it divides your life into before you heard the song and after you heard the song. Like there are some songs that just change your life in a super profound way. What's one song that you heard that changed your life like that?
I would say True Love Waits by Radiohead. The piano version from Moon-Shaped Pool is like one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. It's crazy because Tom York wrote that song in like the 90s when he was with his wife, that then they divorced or something, and then he's like singing it again on that album, and it's like, it's so emotional. I just always get chills listening to that. Wow. It's also some of my favorite piano textures. There's like these weird reversed piano sounds and stuff, but yeah, a lot of Radiohead's music I find is like beautiful but hard to put into words and kind of just like weirdly hauntingly beautiful.
No one does it like Radiohead. Very moving music. Now, Elijah, I was told some lore recently about how one time you went to a Dodger game and you wore a Cardinals jersey. And then when the Cardinals started losing, you switched jerseys and the crowd went crazy.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yes, so I am a Cardinals fan. My uncle grew up in St. Louis. Shout out to the Cardinals. And yeah, so I had this dumb idea to have a Cardinals jersey under a Dodgers jersey.
Nice.
And then I was just with my brother at the game, and after I think it was one of the Cardinals got like a hit or something, I stood up and ripped off the Dodgers jersey.
Oh my God.
And everyone got really excited, but this one guy's like, if you look at the video, his face was like pure joy.
Oh my God.
But I almost thought I was gonna get like jumped or something. But yeah, it was fun. It
That's
wasn't like a World
hilarious.
Series game, so it wasn't the stakes weren't that high. But
Right.
it was a good moment. I'm a Dodgers fan now too, so I was at the playoffs.
Okay.
I've converted over.
Go Dodgers. You know, we're just at the start of the year of 2025. It's January. We've got a lot to look forward to. What are some goals and dreams you have for the upcoming year?
Some goals for this year, I just want to write really good songs.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's easy to get a little bit sidetracked with production of like, oh, these sounds are so cool. This is like whatever. But I want to write better songs this year and then still produce them well. I'm going to migrate sort of from the solo piano sound to more tie in some of the production stuff I've done and have a more energetic live band sounding album with
Awesome.
vocal features. So yeah.
We're looking forward to that. I'd love to know, as someone who's been doing what you do for so long and has been so successful, what role does like discipline and routine and practice play in your career right now?
It's played a big role. I mean, there have been times when I had a better routine. There was a period where when I was in LA, like I guess a year or two ago, before I started touring as much, where every day I would wake up, have a cup of coffee, maybe take a couple hits on a spliff, and just go play piano for an hour before I looked at my phone or talked to anyone or even like emerged into the world, basically. And it was almost like a journaling session, in that I was just expressing myself. I would record it sometimes, so some of my songs that I put out were just from those like morning improvisations, essentially. It was important for me to do that before I looked at my phone or got like bombarded by too many images. That's what I found was my best time to create, just right when I wake up, before I like turn on the world, to just kind of preserve like 1 hour to do that. And also just kind of like experiment with like, there's just times when I feel like there's only so much we can say. I can only speak English fluently, but there's only so many words that I can pick in English. But like the certain combinations of chords might make you feel like these adjectives that don't exist, because the only options we have is like awkward, this, but it's like, what does awkward really mean? When like this sound might make someone feel that like, oh, that's what I was trying to say. I just can't pick a word because like we only have like one dictionary.
Right.
And so a lot of the times I'm also just like experimenting with sort of like processing emotions, sort of just like journaling.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like another language of expression.
Definitely.
Kind of.
Do you feel like you could go back to maybe like one of those journaling sessions / songs from years ago? Do you think you could listen to it now and remember exactly what you were feeling and going through on that day?
Sometimes, yeah. Well, I think music is the closest form of time travel we have, and I think that's ever existed, really.
I completely agree. I think that's one of the things that I'm most passionate about with music, is like music as a time capsule. I completely agree. Like there's nothing like hearing a song and being completely transported into a moment. Like you feel yourself standing in the middle of it. I've had out of body experiences when a song comes on and I'm like shot back to a specific moment in my past. What are some songs that are really nostalgic to you in your life story that maybe do that to you?
To get really nostalgic, if I listen to like Green Day Boulevard of Broken Dreams, that'll definitely pull back some memories. For me, the most nostalgic is going to be like early 2000s R&B, like the music from like middle school dances and stuff, like Nelly, Mario, that type of stuff. Usher. Yeah, that's probably what brings me back, or like makes me nostalgic for whatever, when I was like 12 or 13. Like first crushes, that type of stuff. Those songs will bring back those emotions.
Oh yes, very potent early crush memories. For me, my like high school, middle school, early like crush memories is like what that's like early Frank Ocean, Channel Orange.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like Childish Gambino, 3005. Great
Yeah,
memories.
definitely.
Great time.
Yeah.
Well, Elijah, this has been so lovely. Thank you for your time. Again, your show last night was incredible. Y'all make sure you check out Elijah's work if you haven't yet. So talented, and really like your music makes me feel so deeply, and it's just so special, and I love what you do. Is there anything else that the people should know about Elijah Fox?
Stay tuned for more music, and yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.